Atlanta is definitely a bit unique when it comes to major US cities. For example, when I moved here, I had no idea that I would be owning so many trees. Like everybody's yard here is full of trees. And who's responsible for maintaining these trees? What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living, and we put out videos every week about what it's like to live here in Atlanta and the surrounding suburbs. We talk about the homes and the communities and the family-friendly environments here. If you're thinking about moving to Metro Atlanta, or you just have any questions about what it's like to live here, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. I'm the one who answers those phone calls and those text messages and those emails, and I'd be happy to help with your moving needs. Right now, I want to tell you about some things that I wish I had known before moving here. And one of those things really does have to do with the amount of trees that come with most of the properties here. And when I moved to Metro Atlanta, I came from Florida, where it just wasn't as common to own as many trees as you do here in Georgia. Like in Georgia, many of the properties have pine trees, hickory trees, maple trees all over. And it just was kind of an unusual thing. Does the city take care of those trees? But in fact, it is the owner's responsibility to take care of those trees. Not only that, but you don't need permission from anybody to cut down trees in the suburbs of Atlanta. Like you can take down any trees that need to be taken down, especially when there are pine trees that are really close to a home. It is highly suggested that you take those pine trees down because they can be problematic. They're easy to fall. They have a short lifespan. So these 40-foot pine trees, sometimes you hear in the news about them falling on people's houses. So it's super important when you have a pine tree that's really close to a home to make sure that that pine tree is either healthy or it's removed. Another one that I wish I had known about is septic tanks. Septic tanks seem to be really common here in Georgia. Like in other parts of the country, you typically have the homes on like a sewer line. This is like the common thing. But here in Georgia, many homes are not on a sewer line and they have their own septic tank. So this is something that has to be maintained regularly. They tend to not be problems. It can be kind of weird to buy a home with a septic tank, but they're not really that big of a problem as long as the septic tank is regularly maintained. You can do a septic tank check or a septic tank flush or whatever, like every few years, every 4 or 5 years. I think the companies will suggest something like every 2 years, but the truth is most people here wait like 10 years between doing regular maintenance. And that's a normal thing. It's not like it's a problem. So if you did maintenance on the septic tank every 5 years, it would totally be acceptable. Another one that's super important that you really need to remember when moving here to Metro Atlanta is that the school year here starts much earlier than other parts of the country. For example, in Cobb County, school starts around August 1st, and this really surprises so many people who are thinking about moving here. So if you're moving here to Metro Atlanta and you want to be here in time for your child or your student to make it for the beginning of the school year, not only do you need to have been moved into your new home before August 1st to register for school, but you also need to remember that buying a home takes usually 2 to 3 months. So this means you'd have to start your home search around May, maybe June, just to be able to be moved in time to register for the school year. And then another big one is where the airport is located. While the northernmost suburbs are the ones that are the most populated, most people move to the North Metro Atlanta suburbs. The airport for Atlanta is actually on the south side. It's just south of Atlanta. This means that the average amount of time that it takes to get to the airport from the northern suburbs can be 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour and a half if there is a lot of rush hour traffic. So if you plan on using the airport a lot, you either have to plan accordingly for that commute, or you might want to live on the south side. Cities like Fayetteville, Peachtree City, Stockbridge are some great cities on the south side of Metro Atlanta that would put you much closer to the airport. And then speaking of the airport, also, the airport in Atlanta is super busy, like all the time. There is multiple terminals in the Atlanta airport. It's the busiest airport in the world, some people say. And for all of the terminals in the Atlanta airport, there's only one security checkpoint. This means that everybody flying through the Atlanta airport has to go through that same security checkpoint, and that line often backs up super long. It can sometimes take 30 minutes to an hour just to get through the security checkpoint at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Another thing that I wish I knew before moving here to Metro Atlanta is that the suburbs are very family friendly. There is a lot of young families who live in the suburbs of Metro Atlanta. There are a lot of community events in the suburbs. The schools are great in the suburbs. So this is really where most of the young families move to, where it's not quite as busy as the city of Atlanta. You can get away from the crowds in the suburbs. This is where I currently live, and this is where I wish I had moved to when I first came here to Metro Atlanta. The suburbs are a great place to live for families and for people who are trying to get away from the crowds of Atlanta. Okay, here's another one that I wish I had known when I first moved here, and that is that many other major US cities, LA, New York, Chicago, those places have super high cost of living. And Atlanta's cost of living has been known for being a bit lower than some of the other major US cities. But the cost of living here in Atlanta is certainly increasing, and it's still catching up to some of the other cities that I just named, but there is still quite a ways to go. Investing in real estate here in Metro Atlanta is a great idea, and I still think there's a lot of upside for the real estate values here in Atlanta. I still think we have a long way to go to catch up to the cost of living of other places in the US. So while Atlanta prices are increasing, there's still going to be room for more increase. You're still going to be able to buy homes this year or next year and still have equity as home prices continue to increase every year. Okay, this one really I wish I had known about before I moved here, and that is that the amount of seasonal allergies that people have here in Metro Atlanta is just super common. Like, there's so much trees and vegetation, pollen, and all kinds of things that cause allergies. It is very common here in Georgia. So I have to take like a seasonal allergy thing every day because of it. And lots of people have to do this just because of how much pollen there is here in Metro Atlanta. So if you're someone with a lot of seasonal allergies and you don't already live here in Georgia, you should expect to have even worse seasonal allergies here in Metro Atlanta. Another thing that I really wish I had known about before moving here was how much I should expect to pay for monthly expenses here in Atlanta. Some parts of Atlanta cost a little less than other parts of the US, but some parts of this city cost a lot more than other parts of the US. If you want a full breakdown of what the cost of living is here in Metro Atlanta, check out this video. I'll see you there.